so I will be home by myself for a couple of hours. In this apartment, once you walk in, you hit the living room first, and then on your left side you see the kitchen window, and on the right side is a hallway to the bedroom. I came home and I heard water running in the kitchen, and I heard the opening and closing of the kitchen cupboard, thinking, maybe it's my mom. Sometimes she would come home early. I turned right into the hallway to go to the bedroom, just to take a nap after school. And I yelled out to my mom, who say, "Hey, can you wake me up in a couple hours?" And I heard her reply. It was a raspy female voice. "Okay, Con. Okay, my son in Vietnamese." Voice was raspy, so I thought, maybe she's sick and she must have a cough. And that's why she was raspy. And that's why she don't come home early from work. So I went to took a nap, and then about an hour later, I got a phone call, and it was my mom. So I answered it, and she said, "Hey, what did you want to eat?" Because she had to stay late at work, and she was not going to go to cook dinner. And I realized that whoever it was in the kitchen early was not my mom. That time right before sunset, when it's still light outside, but then inside your house is still dark. It was pitch black, and inside was an eerie silence. And I told my mom, "Please come home early," and I was like a teenager. But I was still a kid. I sat up in bed, and I was so afraid. I didn't want to move, because I didn't close the bedroom door. And now, I'm staring into the dark hallway, and the whole time thinking, who was that? Thankfully, my dad came home only 20 minutes later, and I asked everyone in the house, did anyone come home earlier? And no one said that they did. Just chalked it up to my imagination. But it left a nagging feeling that it was something more than that. About 6 months later, I just gotten back from a wrestling practice, and I was exhausted, so I dozed off to sleep, and usually I had a radio alarm clock next to me, and I was fall asleep listening to the radio. This time, I woke up suddenly and not knowing where I was. I woke up, but my eyes were still closed. I heard there's music playing from the radio, and I remember I left the radio on when I went to sleep. I realized I must be in bed, so I opened my eyes, and I could no longer hear the song, and I was staring at the ceiling, unable to move. So I yelled out, "Mama." I could only hear the sound in my head, because my mouth wouldn't open. So I closed my eyes for a moment, and I heard the song. Song was on radio, so I knew that I was in bed. And also I know I was awake. But I could not move, so I opened my eyes, looked at the ceiling, and I could not move. And I couldn't hear the song anymore. So I kept doing that. I don't know how long. It felt very long. I felt my arms and my legs moving finally. So I was like, yes, I'm finally awake, and I was sleeping on the edge of the bed. So I thought, if I turn over and I fell down, it hurts, but then I would wake up. So I try moving my arms and my legs over, and I turn over, and I felt my body falling, and I felt the thud as it hit the floor, and I felt the shock and the pain of it. I must be awake by now, so I opened my eyes, and I'm still back in bed looking at the ceiling. I tried again. I tried falling off the bed again, and it kept doing it, and I was stuck in a nightmare. When I woke up, I couldn't trust that I was really awake. I was sweating so much, and it was that cold sweat, and my shirt was damp with sweat, and my heart was racing. That was the first time that I truly felt afraid. Is fear being locked inside your own body? Shortly after that, I had my first vivid or lucid dream. In my dream, I was at home, but nobody else was there, and the layout of the apartment I was in the dream, it was the same layout, but the furniture was different. It was older, it was dustier. I walked out from my bedroom to the hallway, and there was a fallen mirror there, with a diagonal crack on it. I walked in front of it, and I saw the reflection of a little Caucasian boy with a bowl-cut blonde hair and blue eyes. I said to myself, "This isn't real. I must be dreaming." I woke up, and it was the first time that I realized. I could tell that when I'm in a dream, or not. And it was one of those weird dreams. The next time I had another weird dream. I was floating around the apartment. This time the furniture in the room was in. In it, the house was also different than the previous dream. I was floating around. I wasn't walking. You know. I went through the kitchen. I went through the sliding door in the kitchen to the backyard, and immediately I came face to face with a darker-skinned Hispanic and Native American man. No, he didn't look scary or anything, but he said, "What are you doing in my house?" And they're very confused with a very loud voice, like I could hear in my head. I was shocked, you know. I could hear him, and I could see his face. And I woke up sweating again, and I was like, okay, maybe I was a spirit back in the day or something. It felt like that. Everything that has happened so far. It was all in my dreams. So I just thought again, and I wanted to have a very active imagination. It's just, silly dreams. And then a few months later, one night I was taking a shower, and then I felt someone watching me. So I cleaned the shambles from a face, and I looked out through the frosted bathroom. Sliding door. It was a male figure. He was in a light blue buttoned shirt and tan slacks, pulled up way past his belly, and a green hard hat. Very official looking. So I was like, oh, my God, someone is in the bathroom with me. So I slid open the frosted door. No one was there. I stood there for a moment. I'm saying I must have imagined the whole thing. I was so scared I didn't even finish showering. I just rinsed off and dried up. And I ran out into my room that night. My dad told me that my paternal grandfather is dead. He passed away in Vietnam. At that time, I turned on Yahoo Messenger to communicate with the family in Vietnam, find out what happened, and then, a few days later, we watched the funeral procession on the internet. A few weeks later, we got a DVD from Vietnam, from the funeral, and we all watched it. And at the end of the video, there was a slideshow showing all the photos of my grandfather. During the slideshow, a picture popped up, and I had to pause the DVD because it was a picture of him in his youth. Volunteer uniform, light blue button shirt, tan slacks, and a green wide jungle hat. I couldn't believe it. My whole family is Catholic, but they do not believe in ghosts or demons or anything, because it's the house of God, and God wouldn't let any supernatural things happening. Just talking about it was not looked favorably upon. So I calculated what time that I saw that figure, and it was a few minutes after he passed in Vietnam. The following year, we moved to a different apartment. And the thing about Orange County, California is, it's home to the largest concentration of Vietnamese immigrants, and there have been a few generations that have been here before the 70s, before the end of the war. so we were excited to move to a new, more spacious 2-story apartment. At that time, I was going off to college, but I stayed home to save money. That's when the sleep paralysis escalated. I started seeing figures. I felt the bed move during the sleep paralysis episode. The stereotypical packmen staring at me. They had women straddling me while I'm in the sleep paralysis and looking at me. One time, I was sleeping in the living room on the couch, and I had sleep paralysis, and I heard someone walking up the stairs. So it was a 2-story apartment. So it's a 2nd story who had stairs going up. So I was, in the living room. I had sleep paralysis. And I heard someone moving up the stairs, slowly but intentionally walking, so you can hear them. The first step, dude, dude, dude. And a deep voicemail said, I'm coming to get you. And by this time, I'm used to it. So I knew how to wake myself out of sleep paralysis. I just used to shake my head really hard. And if I shake it really hard, I would wake up. I'm a very skeptical person. I like to think I'm rational. So I looked into it, and there was proposed theories on how or why sleep paralysis happens. It's the theta brainwaves, invading other type of brainwaves during sleep. And normally your body is paralyzed, so you don't act out your dreams. So sometimes you wake up and your mind is woken up, but your body hasn't woken up with it. So you're still paralyzed. And I rationalized it as it's just something that happened. It's a physiological phenomenon. It's not real. So I just kept on living my life. And with sleep paralysis, as you know, that is something common. And then one night, I was studying in the living room again. Well, early into the morning, around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps coming from the bedroom upstairs. Let's not tune abnormal. People in my family, they would come down for a glass of water. But this time, it was my teenage sister. She had a dazed look on her face. She was staring in a distance as she was walking through the living room, as she walked into the kitchen. So I thought maybe she's sleepwalking. And it's the first time I've seen someone sleepwalking. So I pay attention. I didn't want to wake her, because I read all the lore that you're not supposed to wake a person that's sleepwalking. You just guide them back to bed. So she walked to the kitchen, and she walked to the kitchen window. She opened imaginary door. She looked up and down, and then she closed the door. And she turned around and went back to bed. So a few weeks later, I found out, incidentally, from the landlord that the tenant before last, they had a brown fridge next to the kitchen window. The pictures he took before they moved out. Because before people move out back then, they just came in and took pictures to see if there's any damage. He dug it up, he showed me. And there was a fridge, exactly where my sister was, pretending to open the door. And I couldn't believe it, because it was exactly where she was at, in front of the kitchen window. But again, I wasn't allowed to talk about any of this in my house. So I explained it away as a coincidence. I just brushed it off. It's early morning. I went down to the kitchen again to get water. As I turned a corner into the kitchen, I saw someone sitting there in the dark, at the kitchen table, and the figure looked like my dad. I was like, "Hey, Dad, what are you doing awake?" He didn't answer me. "Oh yeah, I got some water," went back up, and the door to my parents' bedroom was open. I was drinking water, and I looked in, and I saw my parents sleeping in there, so I stopped. I turned on the light, and I ran downstairs. Of course, there was nobody there. Another late-night study, and I was laying on the sofa with a laptop on my chest after an hour in that position. And my back was hurting a little bit, so I set up to put my laptop on the coffee table. And just before I put it down, the table slipped like a good foot away from me. And the coffee table it was not too heavy, but it was heavy. I just held a laptop in my hands, and I was like, I froze. I'm trying to process what happened. In California, earthquakes aren't that uncommon. So I explained it away as an earthquake, you know. But I knew that it was an earthquake. The whole apartment, everything would be shaken and moved. And not just one coffee table. So now, I'm 2 years into college. We welcome into addition to our house. My baby sister was born. She was the joy of our lives. And I love taking care of her and spending time with her. When she was 2, I was taking care of her one morning. And we were alone in the 2-story apartment. And after giving her a bath and I put clothes on her, I was going to take her downstairs to get something to eat. And I had turned a corner. And I was a couple of steps down the stairs. And she was about to go with me. When she's turned back to look at the bedroom hallway, and she said, "Hey, look, there's a lady there." So I just grabbed her and I just booked it downstairs. Again, I played it out as her imagination. And I didn't want to acknowledge it. Shortly thereafter, we had a roommate. He was a son of a family friend. So he came in to study, so we gave him a place to stay. He shared a bedroom with me. Now, the whole time, there was always something going on in the room that I slept in. Things like feeling being watched, waking up feeling someone sitting in the bed, with a depression in the mattress, and especially the door opening on its own. So outside of this bedroom is a bedroom hallway, and there was a loose piece of floorboard right outside of it. So if you walk slowly, you would hear the creak of the floorboard at around 3 or 4 a.m. almost every single night, almost every